Welcome to Once a Nurse, the original. I am so used to saying once a nurse, always a nurse. I always have to stop and think about that. Welcome. I'm Leanne Meier, and I am your host. I am always happy to do these podcasts because I get to talk to so many fascinating people. I want to welcome all of the people who are coming to pick up these podcasts. They're growing in numbers. It's just really wonderful to be able to see that, and thank you all. If you have any questions you want to send to me, feel free to send them to Leanne, Leanne, at onceanurse.com. Today is a very special day. We have been talking for a while now about the Power Up Nursing Cruise that will be April 21st to the 26th. And today we're going to be talking to our keynote speaker, Bruce Cryer. Bruce is a fascinating person from just about any perspective you want to look at him. He brings more than 4 decades of experience in business with innovation, heart-centered values, optimal performance, artistic expression in every single thing that he does. And he does a lot. So Bruce's passion is at the intersection of optimal health, creativity, spirituality, and human performance. So today we're going to talk with him about those various different things, and also we will get to hear him sing, which I think is really also a very pleasant experience and a treat for all of us. So Bruce, would you like to join me? Hi,
There
Bruce.
we are.
Yeah, we made it.
We did.
So I am really happy to have you on. We met through my producer, Tanya Abreu, and I know that she's known you for many, many years, but I essentially just met you on Wednesday to really be able to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And I just was high for the rest of the day. So I just really want to thank you for joining. And let's kind of get to talking about what's going on. So essentially what I was thinking of is you have really done what many of us would like to do in our careers, and that's consistently listen to your own heart and apply creativity to everything you do. And we all hear this is what we should be doing, and most of us are like, yeah, some later time, or when I have more time, or when I retire, all the other things that we say. But that hasn't been true for you. So if you were to give just kind of a fast list of some of the successes that you've created over the past 40 years, what would be in your list?
Yes. Thank you for the question. And great to be here, Leanne. I look forward to this time. Well, it's always interesting to people, especially when I'm interviewed in the context of healthcare, nursing, holistic wellness, that my career actually started as a singer, actor, dancer in New York City. And I was in a long running show some of your audience may have heard of called The Fantastics. And I had the privilege of doing about 800 performances in that show in New York City. And I got to play a boy, and the boy was in love with a girl, and it was a romance about the two of them. And I got to fight for the girl every night. I got to win the girl. I got to lose the girl, and I got to win her back at the end. And I got to kiss her every night, and I got hit by her every night, and I got hugged at the end. And it was a marvelous, charming, wonderful show. And it will always be an incredible highlight of my life because number one, I did it for 800 performances. So that's a long time. Number two, it was just so charming and so lovely and sweet and affirming in many ways. And but after a few years in that industry of entertainment, I realized I hadn't been a theater kid growing up at all. I did not ever want to be on stage. Or if it was, okay, maybe church choir, but I'll just be in the back. I wasn't trying to be a soloist or anything like that. So to find myself suddenly in a career where it was all about that was kind of odd and quirky, but delightful. Don't get me wrong. I loved those years in New York. But at a certain point, I realized my own interest in my own growth, growing as a person, learning about what it means to be human, my spiritual life. There were things that were percolating in me, and I'm a child of the 60s. And so I was very influenced by Henry David Thoreau's writing when I was 15, by the events in Vietnam when I was around that age. I had 2 brothers in Vietnam, both of whom that survived the war, but had very short lives after that. And so there are a lot of things that were impacting me. And so theater was like this wonderful kind of escape from all of that. And to discover that I actually had some skill that people liked, like, wow, okay, didn't see that coming. But after a while, it was like, I think there's other interests in my life that feel bigger now. And I left New York completely, left the career completely, went off to California. And I think in these 40 years, certainly there was this 20-year period where I was a part of the founding group of an organization called Heart Math. And I've had the good fortune of meeting, at this point, probably tens of thousands of nurses through Heart Math, because we've had a 20-year relationship. Heart Math has had a 20-year relationship or more with Kaiser Permanente. I've done programs in the NHS in Scotland and London with nurses. I've worked in major hospital systems, and other parts of Heart Math have worked in hundreds of hospitals all around the US and Canada. And then I'm a cancer survivor, and I'm a MRSA survivor, and I had a double hip replacement, and I had salmonella. And so you might get the idea. I've probably met a few nurses, yes, and it was rather intimate because the cancer surgery was actually bladder cancer. So
That's actually kind of a hard way to go through nursing school. There are easier ways to learn about these things.
Exactly. So, but being part of that original group at Heart Math, and which was all about showing the connection between the heart and the brain, that for all the mastery and the remarkable organ that the brain is, we felt that the heart was kind of getting short shrift. It had been for 150 years or so dumbed down into its fantastic pump, and that's it. And yet, most people intuitively know, no, it's more than that. When you tell your kid to just, when do you have to sing that solo, just sing from your heart.
Mm-hmm.
You don't mean, as the parent, sing from your pump. That's not what you mean. You mean some inner core of you, just what makes you uniquely you sweet little thing. We assign, we feel feelings associated with the heart, not just it being a pump. So Heart Math came along and said, we need to now prove to medical science that's true. Not just because it's too
Just
easy
claim it.
it's too easy to write off. Oh, well, that's just what the ancients believed, or what the poets believe, or the dancers believe, or whatever. And so we were able to prove a lot through research around cardiology and heart rate variability and whatnot. And all that turned into very simple, practical techniques that nurses could use at the bedside. Nurses could use at home before coming into the hospital or the clinic, or wherever they work, or at the end of their shift, or at the end of the day, to rebalance themselves and center themselves. And so as time went on, we realized, of all the possible areas we could work in the world, and we worked in huge corporations, we worked with government agencies, educational systems, and even within healthcare, the most receptive part of healthcare for the message and the tools and research of Heart Math was nurses. And so for now it's more than 20 years, I've been working with a lot of nurses. And again, I've known them intimately in the sense that I've been hospitalized. I've had very uncomfortable procedures, cystoscopies done every few months for years to make sure the cancer wasn't coming back. And so at one point I've kind of laughed about it all. And I've got nurses in the family. My sister-in-law and her sister are nurses. And so nurses are everywhere. But I love that, actually, because having been in the hospital a lot, having been through a lot of procedures, and one year when I was actually in the hospital for the staph infection, which turned out to be MRSA. When I was in that week happened to be International Week of the Nurse. And I knew that before I went in, because our organization, Heart Math, had produced a small little video honoring nurses. And I had that video on my mobile phone. And I would ask nurses to come in, or they're on their shift and they come in and check on me. I said, "Can I show you something?" And I would show them this little video honoring nurses.
Oh,
They were kind of looking at me like, "Who are you? Like, how do you happen to have a video
yeah.
on your phone honoring nurses?"
They're probably as shocked as getting, praise for anything, because we so often just get skipped. Somebody will say thank you, or they'll give us, some candy, or, donuts or something. But, I think because nurses make it look so easy that you don't really catch all of what goes with it.
I think that's a very profound insight, actually, what you just said. And I think that is true. And I think that a great nurse is very good at that. It's just kind of second nature. Well, I'm just doing what I do because I'm a nurse, and as
Mhm.
opposed to drawing attention to it, maybe like a doctor might. I mean, there are a lot of great doctors that do not do that. And I was
Right.
very fortunate in my journey that I had a couple of my urologist was amazing. My orthopedic guy was awesome. So I felt that I lucked out, So those were some of the highlights in terms of my career. And I've worked in higher education too, been teaching at Stanford for 26 years around these, as you see on the screen, uh, scientifically proven techniques to health and well-being and to lowering stress. I wrote an article for the Harvard Business Review back 20 years ago on executive health and stress and performance, and how the heart math tools can assist executives in any industry to lower their stress and improve their leadership and improve their relationships and whatnot. So I've kind of been in the holistic and healthcare field for a long time.
Do you think this has kind of become accepted now, where maybe when you first started doing it, they probably gave you a jaundiced eye, but do you think it's more accepted within healthcare and even in like corporate C-suites?
Absolutely. And yet there's variations. There are those systems that want to be at the forefront, and that's where we tended to be. We tended to go there because they'd already been working on magnet status for years, and so this was another piece that could help them achieve magnet. Or they were, at Baldridge or Quint Studer or whatever they were involved in. They were trying to be proactive relative to their nurses. And so this approach that we had, which was scientifically based, so it appealed to the clinical folks, was very, very attractive. So, I think that's relative to heart math, that was true. But I think part of where I see the obvious change is now it's a badge of honor now to say you have a wellness program. It's a badge of honor to be a wellness professional.
Mhm.
The term holistic wellness is increasingly mainstream. It's becoming a badge of honor, where people say, I'm a holistic wellness coach. I'm not just a regular health coach.
Yeah.
I'm at the forefront because I think a lot of people, especially in the last decade and especially in the last 4 or 5 years, thanks to COVID, a lot of people realize, okay, there's lots of different options here in how I could approach my health. There's the old model of just kind of waiting till I get sick and then hope they can put me back together.
They can fix it.
How's that working for you, U.S. healthcare system?
Mm.
By far the most expensive system in the world, and not barely in the top 50 in terms of outcomes. So a lot of people kind of figured that out and realized they got to take more responsibility for their own health. And there
Mhm.
are fortunately some professionals out there, like with any field, there's a spectrum to me, both in
Mhm.
the traditional allopathic world as well as the holistic, of some that are amazing and very rigorous and very interested in evidence and ethics and all that. And there's others that are not. And I could say the same for traditional as well as the holistic. Holistic is not bereft of charlatans. There's so many
Exactly.
people that are not, in my view, not responsible for things they're saying. They make outlandish claims, but because it's natural, it must be fine. I say,
Well,
well,
we don't even know if it's natural. How do we really know
exactly.
what's in whatever it is that they're selling? It's one of the things I've always been very, very careful about what I will put my name to, because I've been
Yeah,
asked, I've been a nurse now for 51 years, and it is not unusual for people to say, oh, well, you just, promote this for me. And I can't do that.
yeah.
So I have to really know what it is. I know that right now you're doing something called acrobatics. And how, can you say just a little bit about that and why you're excited about that now?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Yeah, so the company is called Neuro, like the brain, acrobatics, like gymnastics kind of thing. And it's a whole system designed by this remarkable guy who's become a good friend and colleague named Sage Rader. And you can think of it like mental gymnastics for the breath, brain, and body. But what's interesting about it is several things, but one of which is that it uses specially curated music that is really
Mhm.
fun. And I don't mean fun like you're in a daycare center fun, but for adults who have had a rough day in the clinic, in the hospital, whatever, to listen to the music in the context of learning how to control our breath in innovative and very helpful ways, it's a really fun process. And so I got involved. I've been, the heart math work involves the breath. We teach people how to breathe in a certain mimicking the RSA rhythm, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. And so I've been doing that. I've been teaching that for literally 33 years. And before that, because of yoga practices that I had learned, I was learning about yoga, about breathing, yogic breathing, pranic breathing, etc.
And breathing into the muscles, breathing into the body.
Exactly, in order to relax. In fact, in college, I was doing that. I had a crazy schedule for a while of I was lucky to get 4 hours of sleep because I was rehearsing and performing so much. And I had to be teaching at 6 a.m. in the morning Tai Chi class, where I had to be like really balanced and really in the zone, having had maybe 3 hours of sleep. And I realized I got a nap.
Yeah,
But to nap, I had to deeply relax, learn how to do
quickly.
progressive relaxation, really had to do that so I could fall asleep fairly quickly, get
Mhm.
up 15 minutes later feeling I feel better.
Yep.
And I learned how to do that, and I'm
Go
very,
again.
very grateful that
Mhm.
that's a super important skill. But back to neuroacrobatics. So I've been into a field like this, around this for many, many years. Met the founder a few years ago, Sage, and got intrigued by the techniques. And then as I got to understand how they were using it, and their first main client in the corporate world was the world's top law firm.
Oh,
So, you
wow.
know, litigators, people that are paid crazy amounts of money per hour to defend a corporation or fight a lawsuit or whatever the case may be. These people, the management realized our people are under so much pressure and they're incredibly valuable to us. We need to find anything that can be beneficial. And we've worked with that firm now for 2.5 years
Mhm.
because they've found so much benefit. And
Yeah.
so I found that out, and then I was actually invited in to facilitate a program within the law firm of these techniques, and it
Oh.
went extremely well. And it was really fun because I am a musician, I am a singer. I've been involved with music since I was 8 years old. It's a huge part of my life, and to be able to have really interesting, fun, upbeat, and very new kind of music that's supporting the process. Yesterday, I was coaching a lady here in Florida where I'm staying, and at the end of it was a 45-minute session. At the end, she said, the music is a significant part of why I love. First of all, she said, I love it. Wow, that was fantastic. 45 minutes. And she said, especially the music was so good. It really was. It really helped me feel so comfortable with the entire process. So neuroacrobatics is this method for breath, brain, body. I just published an article about the concept on LinkedIn yesterday, actually. And so it's very cool. I really love sharing it with people because as somebody who has tried many techniques over more than 50 years myself, from meditation to yoga to tai chi, just many things over the years. Uh, if something doesn't work for me, I move on.
Right. So I'm curious if there's any thought about teaching nurses to do this. I
Absolutely.
know there's tons of nurse coaches out there. I'm seeing more and more all the time that are really dedicating their lives to other nurses to try and help them recover from some of the trauma that they've had. Is this something that they could do?
Yes, we don't have a system set up for that quite yet, but that's definitely a vision because, uh, yeah, I think there's so many reasons. Number one, it would make a lot of sense to nurses how
Mhm.
what we're doing. Number two, they will enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's very enjoyable.
Yeah.
We just created some new music a couple weeks ago, and there's several new tracks, and I think, wow, these are even better than some of the other ones we have. And the other ones, I have very high taste when it comes to music. I have performed with Duke Ellington. I've performed on Broadway. I've done some high level things in my life, and so I don't suffer fools when it comes to music. If something does not appeal to me, it's like, oh, thank you, but no, thank you. But there's something about the style that I just find very contemporary, uh, very appealing to people. So it's a treat for me to do it. And I know it's the kind of thing that a lot of nurses will say, well, I just feel like I was at a lounge,
Mhm.
not not like in a meditation cave or something.
I think we've called this particular segment podcast Jubilant Nurses or Nursing.
Yes.
And I love that because Jubilant Nursing and Heart Coherence. Yes. And I love that because so many times now when nurses hear, oh, we want to work with you and we want to help you heal and, we want you to overcome all of the trauma that you've experienced. And it's like, they want to march in the exact opposite direction because it sounds like, oh, this is going to be really heavy. It's like, I've been through the heavy part. Thank you, but no, thank you.
Yeah.
So, and you will be doing some of this with us on the cruise. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, it absolutely is, and I'm so looking forward to that. Number one, it's a captive audience. You can't get off the ship. So while I'm talking, I got you. I got, you're
Right.
you're kind of, and the doors will be locked, by the way. I'm not messing
And we
anything
will
up.
have so much fun doing it.
Yeah,
Nobody's going to want to go.
so we'll definitely get into some of this, and a lot of my background, thanks to this Heart Math Institute that I was part of for 20 years, is this concept of heart coherence, which is, it's getting out there more and more into the mainstream as well, because heart coherence, meaning at essence, there is a state where the cardiovascular system and breath are working in such harmony that the heart starts to beat in patterns that are called coherent waves. It looks like a sine wave instead of an incoherent kind of crazy earthquake type of wave. And the heart changes in these dramatic ways based upon our emotional state. If you're overwhelmed, if you're stressed out, if you're really angry at the head doctor, at the family, whoever it may be,
Or at
your
yourself.
heart, or yourself, yeah, or feeling guilty, or just overwhelmed, whatever, the heart is producing a rhythm that is very chaotic. And heart rate variability reveals this. ECG does not reveal that, but heart rate variability does reveal that. And so and we learned 30 years ago that you could teach virtually anybody, child to you name it, how old, how to regulate that rhythmic pattern. And so before long, you can actually produce a sine wave instead of this chaotic rhythm. And what that means to the heart, it just makes intuitive sense. Well, that must be better for the heart. There's not all the little bit extra energy from a chaotic rhythm. Well, what is that doing to the rest of the body? Because the heartbeat goes everywhere, and so does a lot of other things from the heart. So the brain is getting a much, much better, more balanced signal for which it can do its job. And that was measured 30 years ago, that sure enough, when the pattern from the heart is more rhythmic, more smooth and coherent, the cortex is already facilitated. It's called cortical facilitation. So the heart's now sending it like joy and peace, so to speak, happiness. And so the brain, oh, thank you. Thank you. This is what I need. Now I can function so much more easily.
Well, and then it can go out to the muscles, which might be in spasm. I was born
Absolutely.
with birth defects, and one of the things I experience a lot is full body spasms, and those will get your attention real fast. But even as a nurse and doctors, anybody else who is in the healthcare field, for the most part, learn about the physiology of how the body works together to keep balance. So we're, living these crazy, insane lives, eating junk and, not sleeping and all the things that we do to ourselves. And we have no idea that our bodies are working overtime, balancing, 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 heart to lungs, lungs to brain, muscles, all of it works together. Even the fascia, which most of us don't even think about, it has tubules along those very thin fascial tissues that are constantly bathing the cells and cleaning and trying to help us get back to an equilibrium that we seem to be determined to break.
Well, and it's so easy to be out of that rhythm, to be in the
Yes.
chaotic rhythm. I think, one thing, I mean, nurses, of course, represent a spectrum of personality. There's not one type of nurse. When I was in the hospital for my second hip surgery, I did them 3 months apart. Um, there was one nurse that walked in, and right away her vibe seemed kind of very almost military and kind of cold, and not verbally there was not much rapport or an attempt to create rapport. And when she finally did speak, I heard a very thick Eastern European accent, and I kind of like, uh-oh. Okay, but brace yourself. This is not like Anita, the wonderful nurse that's on the day shift. Uh, but I was wrong. It turned out that this lady was incredibly efficient, incredibly caring. She would anticipate things before I'd ask. Of all the nurses in that hospital during that time I was in the hospital, compared to the same hospital, same wing, same set of nurses, she was now my favorite. But not because she had wonderful people skills on the level of verbal warmth or affection, like so my point is there's this whole range. She ended up being fantastic. My preference, personality wise, would be somebody warmer, a little more connecting, more asking questions. She was just like kind of anticipating the answer before I'd even ask. Like she'd have some, oh,
Psychically.
wow, thank you for that. Wow, awesome, thank you.
And it probably had to do with what was on your face, how you were holding your body. There were 1,000 different ways that you were messaging her that she was
Exactly.
picking up without having to ask. So let's go there right now. I know that you have a really deep heart for nurses, and I'd like you to share what brought you to that. What was it that you learned during the experiences you had in healthcare? What brought you to appreciate the nurses? Because a lot of times people just tend to, they're thankful, thank you very much, but they don't really register the level of what nurses are bringing to their healing.
Thank you for the question. Well, I think I started working with nurses. So now it's 2024. So yeah, in the mid 2000s. So and I'd already been teaching heart math a lot, and I was very comfortable doing it in many different types of industries, from teachers to government agencies to executives at Stanford Business School to gang kids. I mean, I had worked with many different types of people and a lot of teachers as well. And then we started doing more and more work in hospitals, and I started meeting more and more nurses and finding them very easy to connect to as a group. Like you're good people. I feel like a nurse. I feel like a nurse personality wise in some ways. I
Yeah.
feel like a warm person who like, oh, I would care. I care about you. And so I found as a whole group, that was what I was finding. And also a sweetness, and many, when they would first learn about heart math, would get so excited. I will never forget one of our most significant programs ever was at the small community hospital outside Chicago. Delnor Community Hospital was called. And this lady who ran the cardiac rehab program at the hospital had been trained to be a coach of heart math for patients. And she was getting so much value for the patients. The patients were loving this, and their stress was going down, their health, cardiovascular health was improving, and she was feeling good, obviously for that reason, but also she was practicing everything she was teaching. And so her stress was lower. She was feeling renewed in a career that she was ready to leave the hospital before she had gotten into heart math. And after having months of experience with all these patients, cardiac rehab patients, gaining benefits, she finally went to the COO and said, look, it's kind of like an ultimatum. Either you bring this into the hospital or I will look for another hospital. This is so valuable. I've proven it
Wow.
now in dozens of patients.
Yay, nurses that stand up for nurses. Yay.
Exactly. And to honor her by name, Diane Ball. I've known Diane for at least 20 years now. She was the champion. She was the one who made it happen. And after she kind of set, it wasn't like a threat kind of ultimatum, but a very strong, this is important. We need to be doing this. And I really will. If you won't do it, I'll find a place that will, because it's that important. And she got the COO engaged. He came out to California from Chicago to attend a weekend event. Things just kind of fell into place. And a year later, they were able to announce that they had dropped their attrition from 28% to 21% in 1 year. But the improvement was all in the people that had been trained. So they had only trained 400 out of 1,000 in the hospital in heart math, and they've gotten that benefit, a 7% drop of only 40% that had been trained. And when they looked at the group that had been trained,
Guess what?
the attrition was only 6%.
Gee, I wonder if that's less expensive than hiring how many nurses for all the people that want to leave. So many times
Exactly.
people just think it's, the cost of their salary, but it's so much more than that. It's, cost of the
Exactly.
salary, trying to find people. And right now it's almost impossible, because you better be able to prove that you are some kind of fantastic hospital that gets nurses and is doing everything possible to support and encourage nurses. If you're just waving around a salary, a bonus to sign on, something like that, forget it.
Exactly. So that was sort of the beginning of me starting to interact more and more with nurses. And because their data was so strong, they estimated they'd saved just under $1 million in the first year just on the retention improvements. Then they had a length of stay reimbursement change of 2.4 million, which they credited to the HeartMath program. So they had, it was like over $3 million of benefit to the bottom line. And the cost, wasn't even $500,000. I mean, maybe 200,000 with all the staff time of going through the workshop. So it was a crazy ROI. And that got us kind of going, okay, we have a model that's proving financial benefit, let alone employee satisfaction went way up, patient satisfaction went way up. And so, like, to them, it was like, this was not just a home run, this was a grand slam. The culture of the hospital is feeling better about itself, and patients want to be here. And
I'm thinking we're going to need to send this video out to every hospital CEO across the country, and hopefully they'll take the time to watch it. But they're banging their heads against the wall trying to figure out, how do we turn this around? And they don't get, it's all about relationships. It's all about the body. We're saying we're taking care of these people, but if we're not taking care of our staff, and the staff isn't able to take care of themselves, they can't take it down to the patient level either.
Exactly. So, as I say, that kind of got me started in a significant way around working with nurses specifically. And then, getting a strong case study from Delmar Community Hospital meant we would share that with others. And so within the next 2 years, I think we had 3 hospitals, all of whom reported 7-figure cost savings just by bringing in this program, which was ostensibly for stress reduction. But what it was doing was the nurses who are now less stressed were giving better care. So the patients were leaving sooner. They were happier. Their satisfaction was better. The hospital environment. So all these hospitals were finding basically the same thing. You treat your nurses well, give them tools to help themselves, which they can in turn help their patients with. Who's not benefiting?
Yeah, such a mystery how they could. I mean, I kept, especially when COVID pulled back the curtains on what was happening in healthcare, I just couldn't understand how anybody who was in that position of running huge hospitals, that they couldn't get that their product is the nurses and, of course, the other employees, but nurses are there 24/7, 365. So that moment in the middle of the night when no one is there and you're terrified, that's the moment when it makes or breaks whether somebody will come back to your hospital or not.
Exactly right. So for me, all that was happening. And then in 2009, I was diagnosed with stage 1 bladder cancer. And now it's surgery, in the hospital for several days. Then it's immunotherapy treatment as soon as I could handle that. And that was back in the doctor's office. But then the staph infection started. And by the time of the 4th staph infection, which I acquired somehow through something in the doctor's office, probably. But I was flying. So I was now in immunotherapy treatment. This is about 4 months after the surgery. And I'm now flying to Indianapolis for Magnet. And because HeartMath we had a booth there, Jean Watson, who's a dear friend. I've known Dr. Watson for 20 plus years. She was keynoting at the conference. And I was going to be meeting a lot of people, and I was already very familiar with this world. I'd been working in it I knew many chief nurses by this point. I knew hundreds of staff nurses and, ASNs and you name it. But I'm on the plane feeling sick, but I was also at a point in my immunotherapy. It was around the 4th treatment where I was supposed to be getting like flu-like symptoms after a certain number of hours. And sure enough, I felt that way as I'm getting on the plane. They put me in first class, not knowing anything. It was like they had a wide body plane just going to Indianapolis from San Francisco. So I actually had a lie down bed.
Ooh.
Not because I was sick. I just kind of somehow got on a plane that had that.
It's called fortune. You created fortune in your life, that what you need is there when you need it.
I tell you what. So I'm feeling crummy. We take off. There's some turbulence in the takeoff. And after we get up a little ways, they come on and say, we've hit a bird. It may have damaged the engine. We need to turn back and go back to San Francisco. So we go back. And meanwhile, this is added on a couple of hours to the flight time of eventual arrival. And I make some calls, let people know I'm going to be getting into Indianapolis a lot later. I'll miss the dinner and all that. And then we're getting ready to start again, and we take off. And I had forgotten to turn off my mobile phone. Now this is 2010. So, people were using mobile phones plenty by that point. And suddenly I look down and it's my urologist calling. Okay, so this is usually not a happy call. He never calls me. So if he is calling me, there's some concern. So I pick up, and we are literally lifting off the runway as I'm talking. And he says, "Well, you're not going to want to travel anytime soon because you've got another staph infection." I said, "Well, it's a little late for that. They're not going to turn this plane around a second time. We're taking off." So what do we do? And so we arranged an event at all night Walgreens in Indianapolis. I land and get the Uber driver to take me over there to pick up my prescription. And for the next 3 days, or 4 days, however long the prescription, I was taking antibiotic, and I had heavy fevers the entire time I was at the magnet. And that concerned them because the antibiotics didn't seem to have much of an effect. It was like, why is that happening? And meanwhile, my experience of the conference was, I felt like I was always drained with sweat.
Yeah. Let's bring this back again. We're going to go on the cruise here shortly in April. And I'm wondering, what will the nurses learn from you? Why should they come and hear this? What do you feel like they are going to come away with from you?
The techniques that I'll share around this concept of heart coherence are so simple. They can be used while you're walking from one room to the next. They can be used while you're washing your hands. They can be used while you're putting on your scrubs, or at the end of the day, on the drive to work, on the drive home from work. And this is part of the beauty and part of the attraction to HeartMath all along. Is it's really robust in terms of the science and the understanding of what's happening in the body, but how it actually can play out is really simple. And this is why ultimately all Northern California Kaiser hospitals adopted it, had trainers in all the hospitals, because all of our people need this. And it's easy. You don't have to be in a dark room. You don't have to believe in meditation or something. This doesn't impact.
Not a lot of equipment.
There's hardly any equipment. I mean, you can do it without any equipment. There is some technology that can support it. But so the techniques themselves feel good. There's a good feeling in just doing the technique. I feel better having just done that. Thank you for reminding me to do that technique called neutral, or that technique called quick coherence. So I'll go through some techniques. But beyond that too is there's a mindset around coherence that I've thought about a lot, because I've been into this field now for more than 30 years. So there's principles that I've kind of come to want to employ in my life, because the idea of coherence, we use that relative to the body, that the body can get in this state of flow, of the zone, that is highly efficient and highly measurable. And you want to do that. And when you're in that state, you're not experiencing stress in the same way. You're able to release stress. But that concept of being aligned and in balance can be applied to how you talk to a patient, how you interact with your family. So there are dimensions of coherence that aren't just about the body and lowering your stress, but about how we interact in relationships, how we think about our life strategically. What do we want? What do I want to be when I grow up? I loved the way I've been a nurse up to this point, but what's my next phase?
Yeah.
Being coherent internally about what do I really care about, what's really meaningful to me, can make a huge difference to that decision-making process that you're on. So the coherence, it's not just techniques for in the moment reducing stress, although that in itself is huge, but it kind of bleeds into every aspect of your life in a very positive way.
What's great for nurses too is that it's something they can do for themselves. They feel like they don't have time to go and take a course, or,
Exactly.
have a lot of coaching, or go to yoga classes, or whatever else it is that people are saying this is what you need to do for yourself. This is something they have to breathe anyway. So
Exactly.
it's just sort of something that they can do for themselves, and they can teach it to other people, which is one of the things nurses love to do, is be of use to others. So kind of along this line is, you're talking about what can nurses do like in their next level of career path. You are now kind of coming back to your origins of music. And you had sent me a video or two videos that I was really very impressed with. And we will show that here in just a little bit. But tell me what brought you back to music?
I went to a Christmas Carol sing-along concert in Washington, D.C. at the Kennedy Center 3 months after I stepped down as CEO of HeartMath. And I was so moved by the magnificence of the music and getting up to sing occasionally with 2,000 church choir singers from Washington and Northern Virginia. And that night, as I left the theater, a voice said, "Your singing voice needs to be heard in the world again." And I followed on that, and I hooked up with an old friend of mine that was an Emmy Award-winning composer, and we started a project called What Makes Your Heart Sing, which was dedicated to healthcare. Kaiser Permanente was our first client. And so I embraced my creative self, and I said, I want to sing again. And then I got challenged to try dancing again. I now had 2 titanium hips. And I thought, you're crazy. I can't. I mean, I can walk okay now, but dance? No. And sure enough, I could dance. And sure enough, I became a great dancer again. Great for me. I mean, I feel great dancing. If anybody else doesn't think that's okay. And so it became like, this is me. I mean, I am fundamentally a creative person, and I love doing this business stuff, and I love being an educator. It's not either or. It's not like I'm just going back to having a Broadway career. So on the cruise, I'll be singing. On the cruise, I'll get people dancing.
Wonderful.
Because I feel we are all innately musical and want to move. We may not be trained in it. We may not feel like we're good at it, but that doesn't even matter. So, but the joy of it, like you brought up music earlier, the joy of music, most everyone on planet Earth has at least one song that, that song, I love that song.
Yeah.
Or that symphony,
and it's so universal. It doesn't matter if you understand the words or not. The music itself can speak to people across all nations. So we're going to show this song that you had showed to us, and I'd like you to, kind of bring us into it. What should we know about it as we're going in to listen? And then when we get done with it, we'll talk a little bit about, what would you like to share about the backside of it?
So the song is called Yeah, I'm Me. Yeah, I'm Me. And in this process of writing an album of original songs with 2 collaborators, I began to realize this was a gift I actually did have. I never wanted to write a song. I never dreamed of making an album. I got invited to do it. And then I discovered, wow, I love this. This is really fun. Never knew I could do it. And so in my journey of that several year period of stepping down as CEO, of embracing my creativity, of realizing I am fundamentally a singer and a dancer and an artistic person, that's me. But I'm also these other things. So Yeah, I'm Me became kind of the emblem or the symbol of my life transition. And as I wrote the lyrics and thought deeper about the theme, I realized this is for everybody. This is not just about me and my own little journey. This is everybody embracing who we really are. And most of us, there are aspects of ourselves we don't embrace, that we were told, oh no, that's not no, Leanne, wait till you're retired, then you can be the artist.
Right.
You got to
if you're still alive.
If you're still alive, right?
Yeah. So how? What are we going to see? Share. It's I'm me, but what are we? Do you want to tell us about the people that are in the video with you?
It's okay. I think let me tell them afterwards, because
Okay.
I think it's
That
the
sounds
song.
good.
The song itself is the main
speaks
part of
for
it.
itself, but I am going to say, just based on previous experience, you might want to mute yourself because I know you're going to want to sing to it.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll do the same.
In my darkest place, I grew fearful of the light. It made my heart so small, just like a face with no delight. When we grow up scared, living like a refugee, and I have lived that way, and I won't ever go back to sea. In my heart, I know I'm the way that I'm designed to be, and I will let you know The truth I see when I am me. Now I live in light. I look up to the sky to keep me bright, and I know the way. And I'm living here all day and night. Yeah, me, oh. Oh, 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 yeah, I'm free, oh. Oh, 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 love is free, oh. Oh, 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 yeah, me, oh. I know, in my life, I know that love can bring us hurt and pain, and now we have to be the truth that's deep inside, but no shame. Now let's live in light. We breathe in the love to keep us right, and we know the way. So we'll be living here all day and night. Yeah, me, oh. Oh, 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 yeah, I'm free, oh. Oh, 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 love is free, oh. Oh, 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 yeah, me, oh. I know. Yeah, me, oh. Yeah, I'm free, oh. Na, 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 na. Yeah, me, oh. Oh, 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 yeah, I'm free, oh. Oh, 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 love is free, oh. Oh, 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 yeah, me, oh. Oh, yeah, me, oh. Oh, yeah, I'm free, oh. Oh, yeah, me, oh. Oh, yeah, me, oh.
You can't help but get just pulled right into that. My phone went off in the middle of it, and I'm like, oh no. So tell us a little more about what that means to you.
Well, I get choked up watching it, to be honest. It is such a gift to have worked with those two young guys that were in the video. Isaac and Torald Corin are their names. They're brothers, and they were my co-creators on the album, on that song, on everything we did on the album, and they're performers. So they were. Torald was playing guitar. He also played keyboard, and it was a very powerful, wonderful, affirming experience to go through that. And I was saying yes to my creativity in a very big way, because I had never wanted to write a song, let alone spend a ton of money to produce a bunch of songs and release them and launch them in New York City, of all places. So it was a dream come true, but it was life-changing in many ways. I mean, when I said yes, it was partly because I knew I would be able to perform that song. I could perform any songs I was creating live in a place like a cruise without needing a band. So I'll sing that song live on the boat with the tracks from the album. So it'll sound fantastic, but I'll be singing live. And so part of why I said yes, because it meant I could sing this anywhere on planet Earth at a party, just as long as I got my phone plug it into the Bluetooth it to the speaker in the host living room, and I can perform. And so that was a huge thing for me to be able to share inspiration. And the process of doing that and to see how people have responded, particularly that song, but there are a few others on the album that people particularly that also like a lot, that it's very affirming, like, yeah, I'm me, and I can be proud of me. I don't have to hide in the shadows and feel like upset about that part of me, but not so upset about others. So it's a very affirming experience. And to hear that song and feel that song and to realize we did that. Isaac and Torald and I did that. Wow, I never imagined I would do that. And
Here's what's even more important is that when one person is standing up and being completely themselves and completely open and vulnerable, everyone else has permission to do the same. And that's
beautiful.
exactly why we wanted to do this cruise. Power up nursing. Let's bring power back. Let nurses see the power they already have and have, denied for themselves, and others have denied to them. We have phenomenal power. And I talk to people all over the world. And what I keep hearing is that if nurses could be at their best possible selves, we could change the world. We could absolutely change the world. And I think that's true.
Beautiful. I agree 100%.
So this has been such a delight to be able to talk with you again. And I cannot wait to be on the cruise and interacting with you. So nurses out there, doctors, anybody who wants to be on the cruise, I'm really opening this up to anybody who has interest in healthcare particularly. But bring your family, bring your kids, bring your spouse, bring your colleagues, bring friends, bring whoever you want to that could just really use an uplifting 5 days in their life. And the other thing, my secret heart is that I hope that in this time, that as people are feeling free and open, we can start to dialogue about what could the future of healthcare look like if we wanted to create it, ignoring whatever it's been, whatever the history is, anything at all. If we wanted to create it just as we want it, what would it look like? And that's one of the big reasons that I'm so excited to be able to be on this cruise and have this opportunity to talk to people who have deep, deep feeling about it. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you so very much. It has been a privilege and a delight.
Thank you so much.
We will talk again.